All right, welcome everybody to today's video. I'm here live with Dino Watt. Dino, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, Dino's a trusted friend and mentor. I really wanted to have him on because he's helped me a lot, and I know that he's helped a ton of orthodontists and just private practice owners in general with mindset issues, with entrepreneurship, all the kinds of soft skills that I think are really, really important, especially going into what we're going to talk about today, right, Dino?
I say it's the soft skills that deliver the hard results.
Nice. I love that. So why don't you give us just a little bit of background on yourself, like go all the way back to when you were 18 being a DJ.
I was born on Tuesday morning. So how far back do you want me to go?
So talk about your first, like you've been an entrepreneur your whole life, right? So talk about those first experiences and then what led you to being an orthodontic consultant today.
Yeah, I was totally that kid in school that would just sit there and be like, there's no way I could work in a cubicle or in an office. Like, this is not going to work for me. And I had too many ideas that were disrupting in classes, right? Because I'd be like, well, what if we did this? And what if we did that? And they'd be like, no, just do it the way it's supposed to be done, right?
Yeah.
So I always knew I'd want some sort of entrepreneurship. And my parents were both kind of, they weren't entrepreneurs. They're part-time preneurs, right? Like my dad was a cop, but he did spec homes and he sold, nowadays you can get those vacuums that go inside the house, right? Where it's like, I can't remember what the name is, center backs. And he was the one who kind of started off those things and had a car wash, all this type of stuff. My mom had her own little store for crafts. And so I saw that as being an entrepreneur. My stepdad was and still is. He's not my stepdad anymore, but he's a concrete contractor. So we grew up knowing about hard work, and we grew up super poor. At one point, we literally lived in a trailer, like a 5 by 10 foot trailer with no running water, no electricity, had an outhouse, literally had an outhouse. Like, we had some crazy stories, but it just kind of was one of those things where I knew I wanted to not be confined by the building, but more able to use my ideas. I kind of started my entrepreneur journey back right after Shannon and I got married. I was a makeup artist in Hollywood. That's very much entrepreneurial because you got to like really find new jobs and get people out there and connect with people and network. And then I started working for an entertainment company in Hollywood, where basically it was my first kind of foray into really having the ability to implement the ideas I had. Even though I was working for them, I was 100% commission. So still like entrepreneurial, I had to make my own, kill what I eat. Right.
Yeah.
And I took this company that when I went in there, we had a ratio. So we would have about 75 to 80% of our business was from outsourced jobs, meaning other people would get the job and then they would hire us to fulfill that for them. There's not a ton of money in that. Basically, off of every job, we'd make maybe $100, and you can't really sustain a business that way. So my job was to see how we could reverse that. And within a year, we had gone from that to 90% in-house jobs and 10% outsource. And all of a sudden our revenue just shot up. And it was just basically through some marketing and sales techniques and some stuff that was kind of out of the norm, if you will. You're dealing with brides and weddings and parties and DJs and stuff like that. So it was really interesting. But it was the first thing that made me go, oh, I'm really good at this. Like I can see a business differently, and I can help other people grow their business. And within 7 years, we grew that business tenfold. It was amazing. It was so much fun. Then I stretched out into the world of real estate investing, which in a really weird roundabout way got me into the dental space, talking to people about how to be better in their business and their marriage. And then that brought me into the ortho space, where many people probably listening here know Scott Law. Scott had hired me right before he had kind of launched off into Smile Doctors. As a matter of fact, I was there when he had 1.5, like he had just opened up his second office in Austin. He knew that he was going to be having this cool expansion and desire to do this DSO. And he really felt like he needed to have his stuff together, especially in his relationship with his wife, and then grow from there. And then that he just introduced me to Pitt's Progressive Group and Schulman Group and AAO. And so I just started speaking in those spaces and being able to show people what I could do. And then I wrote my book, and then that just kind of snowballed from there.
Nice. And that book was The Practice RX, right?
Yeah, my first book, The Practice RX, actually my second official book, but my first book for the orthodontic space was The Practice RX.
Yeah. Awesome. Really cool. So today, what we want to talk about is Dino's coming out with a new book, as well as a new company in the next month or so. And we're just going to discuss all the trends and different things that have happened in the last year that have led to this point. So why don't you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about the book, the company, and then let's dive into some specifics about, we're talking about everything going virtual. And let's
Yeah.
get
Well,
into that.
I think that talking about the book, I can't talk about the book without, explaining where it came from, because
Mhm.
I did not expect to be writing this book at this time. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, I have a whole different book that the outline's done. I have a ton of the stories done that I thought I'd be releasing that this time, this year, or a little bit probably last year. But when COVID hit and just like everybody, everything shut down, I made two very quick decisions that I think changed the direction of my company. The first was I shut down all my clients' payments. So all my clients that had me on retainer for my services that I do, which was they're about 7 or 8 at that time. I only take on about 10 clients a year. And so I had about 7 or 8 clients, and I called them up and I said, I am not charging you at all until this is all gets figured out. Like you need to make sure your employees are paid and you keep the lights on. No one was talking about PPP or EIDLs or anything
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
time. So I did that, and that kind of freaked my wife out a little bit because we went to literally zero income overnight. But the second thing I said was, I am going to pour on the value. Like, I am going to do so many Facebook lives. I'm going to up my podcast. I'm going to get together with KOLs and other consultants and say, this is what we can do to survive, and this is what you can do. And through that, one very interesting thing came up was everybody was going virtual, right? Everybody's, oh, we got to get virtual appointments, and maybe we can still see patients this way or that way. I personally had been doing virtual for over a decade. Back in 2013, we decided to take the kids on a year-long road trip across the country. I needed to keep my business going, so I had to do everything virtually. Does that mean I had to learn how to sell myself and my services through the screen using the body language training that I had been trained on? I had a degree in, a certificate in body language expertise, learning how to use proper equipment and stuff like that. So I never thought I would use that information in the ortho space, even though for about 2 years prior, I've been talking about how I see virtual as an opportunity for more people to open up their schedules and stuff like that. So I created the Selling Through the Screen 5-day challenge, where I taught people through a challenge model of how they could actually create more virtual opportunities in their business, not knowing when this was going to stop, the shutdowns and stuff like that, not knowing what was going to be around the corner, but also thinking this is also the future, that if you see it the way I see it, it's a tool to scale your business, even if everything comes back full bore, that this could be a whole nother piece into your business that can make you more money.
Yeah.
And it was from that, after I finished, it was success. I ran 3 of them. The first one had over 250 offices from around the world, and it was just super fun. And I went, oh, I need to write a book about this. No joke, Keaton, from where we're recording this today on a Friday afternoon, my editor wrote me this morning and said, everything's done, ready to go. We can take it to the designers for printing. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm excited about it.
Really cool. And what a story, right? It's born of, it reminds me of an interview I was listening to about Bitcoin, and how it's been like, oh, this is an opportunity, like there's some buzz going about it, and then 2020 hits, and Bitcoin goes to 50,000, when at the beginning of 2020 it was at 3,000. So
I know I need
I
to learn more about Bitcoin. I just have no
yeah,
time.
it's so true. Yeah, I mean, you're busy making money other ways, so it's not too big of a deal.
I'm actually going to be interviewing a guy who just reached out to me, who is a dentist doing Bitcoin dental.
Nice. Wow.
So
So
yeah,
he's accepting payments in Bitcoin.
yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
look at that.
yeah.
So anyways, I think it's similar, right? Like, you saw the opportunity, that the opportunities are always been there in Bitcoin as well, but 2020 was the catalyst that
Yes.
really launched all of this. So
Yeah, and it
what's the
opened
name of
up
the book?
people's minds to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The book is so I have 2 books launching at the same time, because I recognized in our industry I wanted to have that book. But I've had real estate people, I've had accountants, I've had attorneys find me through this and say, hey, how can you help me with this? And I want to go virtual. And so I have 2 books releasing at the same time. The one for the orthodontic space is called Mastering Virtual Exams, pretty straightforward. And then the other one is Selling Through the Screen. And so they're the same book, just different examples and how-tos inside of that industry.
Love it. Really cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about the evolution of what's happened. I feel like there was a lot of, so from my perspective, I'll share first and then you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like the world shut down. There was the 2 weeks that everybody was closed, and then everybody kind of like took a breath, looked around, and was like, oh, actually, we're fine. We just have to kind of adjust the way things are going.
Yep.
And some offices have really caught on to that virtual exam thing, and they were just busting out all the virtual exams during COVID. So when it came time to come back into the office, there were plenty of spots for all of their patients and new patients coming in, and some people completely freaked out and there was nothing they felt like they could do. And so since then, there's been different philosophies. Some practices really on board with virtual and really moving their whole practice that way, even though COVID's going to be over someday. And some people just saying, no, we're good where we're at. Like, people love coming in. So what has it been from your perspective, and where's it going in the future?
Well, I think you just described it right? It's all over the board. And you had the people who were in panic mode. So like, whatever, I'll do anything. Right. And so that was great. And it maybe served as a Band-Aid for them. There were people who were doing it before, like Dr. Waldman in California, who is killing it. And he only is virtual, and you're paying to actually come into the office. I actually interviewed him on my virtual 101 program because I wanted people to see this is possible, and he's super successful.
Nice.
And then there were people who did it as a Band-Aid, but then there were people who did it and realized, oh, wait, this is actually making me money. There's a Dr. Loopy out of Virginia, where his TC, who is one of those, she's been doing this forever and she doesn't really want to change, but saw this was a necessity. And man, Kim has been knocking it out of the park and went virtual and did almost the same amount of volume in that month of shutdown than they normally did without it, because she was killing it virtually. And she, even surprising herself, but saw this as a new opportunity. And so they have continued using it. And you got people like Dr. Dan Bills up in New Jersey, who they'd been doing it a little bit beforehand too. COVID made them actually amplify it, and now it's a major part of their business. And then you had people who used it, thought it was great, but then once they got back, it's just another bother. I'd rather just, for whatever reason, go back to the way it was before. I personally think that's a major mistake because of the opportunity that's there. And then there are people who at the very beginning were like, you can't offer a good service, but going virtual, no way am I doing that, blah, blah, blah. So it's been a mixed bag, and that's fine. I mean, I equate it to this, like, Keaton, I know you're younger, and I wasn't around at this time either, but back in the 2000s and early 2000s, when Invisalign first came out, I think it was like 1997, 99-ish, but let's go with 2000. People saw this, and the people who were dyed in the wool braces brackets only, were like, that's crazy, you can't do that, that's robbing us with our skill, and like, it was, you're a heretic if you talked about, or if you did it and you brought it into your office, which is why dentists really made it grow, right? Because dentists were like, well, we'll do it because it's more money. And now it's a missed opportunity if you're not using some sort of clear liners. It's the norm. Well, then just fast forward 10 years ago to about 2010, when you had the heretic offices that were offering same-day starts and saying, hey, we can offer braces the day you walk in here. And other doctors, oh, no, you need 3 appointments. You need better, you can't offer good quality service if you do that. Well, now, if you're not doing same-day starts, I bet you're probably lower in your cash flow, and you're not actually serving the way that you could. Like, there's an opportunity there. And by the way, if you don't want to, that's totally fine. Like, nothing against you. It's just some people see the evolution and get on board, and some people don't. And I think virtual is that next evolution.
They say technology succeeds until it fails. And that's what's that's so many things have happened this year like that. And we've seen the they call it like the K curve in the stock market, right? Where tourism and all that stuff is going down, but everything that's virtual is going up. And it's just a matter of where you want to jump on the train, if you want to get on early or if you want to get on late.
Well, and it's we're all being conditioned to virtual, right? Let alone are we like conditioned to, I want it now because of DoorDash and Uber Eats. But I read through a study yesterday that was showing how just last month alone, there were over, was it 2 trillion? Yeah, because I was like, you sure it's not billion? 2 trillion Zoom calls that happened around the world.
Wow.
Like, think about that. That's nuts. That's crazy.
Insane.
Matter of fact, I want to make sure that as you answer the next question, I want to make sure that I say that correctly, because it was either billion or trillion, but I'm thinking it's trillion.
Yeah, the founder of Zoom, Eric Yuan, they
Right,
asked him
because
what
I
it's like to
forwarded
work.
myself this article and I was like, that's nuts. I'm going to use this now forever to show people how they need to be using this.
Okay, so it's 2 trillion minutes were spent on Zoom calls in April alone.
Wow, that's crazy.
Then that's so the point
Yeah.
is that we're all being conditioned to this is the new thing.
Mm,
I actually had the biggest aha about it probably about a year before everything happened. My mom's husband was in the hospital. He had a heart issue, and I remember we were all there to visit him. And the nurse came and said, "Okay, well, you're gonna have a doctor. The doctor's gonna see you in about 5 minutes or whatever."
yeah.
And 5 minutes later, the doctor shows up on the TV because he's at another hospital 20 miles away.
Wow.
It's like, if they're doing this in medicine and talking to him about his, prognosis and all this other stuff,
Yeah.
we can do that in our system. So anyways,
Yeah.
I'm
I
a fan.
love that.
I'm a fan.
They asked Eric Yuan, who's the founder of Zoom, what it's like to work at Zoom. And he said, it's really boring. Too many Zoom meetings. It's a good one. That always makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Cool. So then are people that aren't accepting this virtual wave in danger? What are the dangers of that? And what are the reasons that they should jump on board now?
Well, I think I don't know. Danger. I'm sure there's a lot of excuses that they'll say or reasons why they'll say they're not in danger. But listen, I think in anything in business, if you're not looking ahead and trying to be on top of the wave, I gave this analogy. It's in my book where I talk about I was in Hawaii learning to surf. I've never surfed before, and you always, you go to Hawaii, you take a surfing class. So I go, and the surf instructor said something very interesting. He said, the biggest mistake most people make is that they'll be on the board, and once they feel the wave start underneath them is when they'll start to paddle. And almost always the wave goes past them because they can't paddle fast enough to catch up with the wave. Yeah. The secret is to start paddling, to look behind yourself and start paddling when that wave is about 5 to 10 feet behind you, so you can catch up and the wave will catch up to you, and now you're together. And I think too many people are trying to paddle or think they can start paddling after the wave's under them, as opposed to seeing it right now. I think it's still behind us. It's not even touching us yet. And so we need to be paddling a little faster. And so I think that's the danger, is people with missed opportunity. Yeah. The reason why I think it's so important is because of the scalability of something that doesn't cost a crazy amount. Up until this point, people have scaled their business through hire a new associate so they can double themselves, right? Which is fine, but there's a major cost involved in that. There's also an up ramp to that you have to financially. People have been, okay, I'll add another hour, or I'll add more team members, or okay, you can do that. You're just working harder, right? Another thing that's really popular, which is really interesting, is adding new products, right? So this new product will make me more money. Whether that be how many doctors are offering like Botox or sleep apnea stuff, which is all fine and good. But now you've got to spend the time, effort, and energy to get your people to learn how to sell that thing. And most TCs aren't really equipped super well. There's nothing against TCs. I love TCs. I love training TCs, but most of them are not equipped to actually know how to sell something. They barely can sell braces, and now you want them to sell Botox. You want them to sell a new type of brace. Like I've been talking a lot with Lightforce, with an Embrace, and all those are great products. And so now we've got to teach people how to sell that. So that's fine. They're new products and nothing wrong with it. There's just a learning curve. That's a challenge. Plus, your profit margin isn't as astonishing as if you just added a virtual component to what you do. If you just did it basic for scheduling, right? So you could have more, you only see retainer checks and you only see growth guidance people, especially who aren't ready to start, even close ready to start, only through virtual. Boy, you just opened up a time in your schedule. Plus, you've reduced the amount of per patient that you're spending, because if you offer the cookies or the sodas or the whatever, when they're there, even just time in your chair is time that you're paying. So that's like phase one of being able to scale better. But the faster way of scale two, phase two is, all right, well, we can do actual virtual exams where doctors can give a quick diagnosis through pictures, and your team members could actually, or your TC could actually see them on nights. They could do on days that you're off, on weekends. so that you actually can have people who want that time freedom, who don't want to come in and see you, who don't have the time to take 2 hours out of their day, 3 hours round trip, everything, taking Junie out of school, right? To come see you. And yet they need treatment. And at this point, we've been saying, well, work your schedule around us. I'm an orthodontist. I only want to work 3 days a week or 4 days a week. That's why I'm an orthodontist. And that's great. And that's understandable. Why would you not open up a new profit center in your business to where you say, okay, well, we also offer virtual appointments only on Fridays between 10 and 1, and they're half an hour each. All you have to do is send us your pictures. The doc will do a quick diagnosis, and our TC will meet with you for half an hour, and we can even get you started to where we can collect your payment, collect your contract, and we will get you an appointment to come in with little Johnny in 2 weeks to get braces started. Like if I was an orthodontist and I picture this as like, how could I grow my business, and think, so wait, I could be on the beach on a long weekend in Cancun, knowing that I have a TC who's not in my office, who's doing it from her home, doing it from her own Zoom, logging into my software from the back end. And when I come back to work, we've closed 4 new patients without me even being there. That's an extra, let's just say average 5,000, which I know is a little low, but let's just say it's average of 5,000. That's an extra 20 grand you made on the weekend while you were in Cancun. Production. That's
I can
not
get on
bad,
board with that.
right? Like, so
it's amazing.
I can talk about this forever. I'm totally, you can't convince me it's a bad idea. Sorry.
So what I'm interested in is your kind of the workflow, and maybe you can dive into what you're going to do with the new company you're launching. What's the workflow you recommend to doctors when it comes to the consultation to start that workflow? Let's go over that one first. How is that working? What are you going to do in your company that way? And what do you recommend? What things do doctors always bring up that aren't really issues, or maybe are issues?
Well, the number one issue, that's a great question, because the number one issue everybody brings up, especially people who are trying it, will say, well, no, we're offering virtual exams. Like, we're offering it. Just people really would rather come in. And no. There's a difference here. Do you offer what type of braces you give them, or do you tell them? Like, you diagnose it. You say, this is how we're doing it. And so when you have little Johnny's mom calling you and you say, okay, well, she wants an appointment time at 2:00 in the afternoon or whatever times that you don't have available, you say, okay, well, you can come in live at only these times, or we have a virtual appointment you can do on Friday at noon. Which one you prefer? Now, let's just say you don't want to give them a choice and you say no, like Dr. Waldman. There are other doctors out there who are doing this, but I think he's probably mastered it the most. Dr. Waldman says you can come in, or you can, but you'll have to pay. And I think it's a little over $200, right? Okay. Or you can do a virtual exam that's free. Yeah. Well, the majority of people choose a virtual exam. If they choose the other, great, profit center, because that doesn't go to the cost of your braces, by the way.
Okay.
Doesn't go to the cost of treatment. So you're not looking at the opportunity that's there. Now, let's just say you're not going to do that and you're not going to charge them to come in, and you're just going to do it like normal. To be able to tell people, say, oh, well, here's the deal. I have a virtual appointment available at this time. Well, we'd rather come in and see you. Totally understand. What we do is our first phase is a virtual appointment where we can get everything done. So you don't have to come in and spend the hour. It's 30 minutes out of your day as opposed to 2 hours. Which would you prefer? Busy mom, right? So you got to build the case for them and help them understand it. And this, again, it goes to the challenge of TCs who really aren't really schooled in sales and marketing. I know there's a good amount of, TC sales, quote unquote, trainings out there, presentation sales or training, right? Yeah. Those are just how to present stuff. And for the most part, I mean, nothing against anybody. I think they're all doing amazing jobs. I just think from what I've seen, for the most part, they're teaching old school sales. They're not teaching modern, what's happening right now with the modern family, with millennial moms, with Generation Z, all that stuff. So you have to be aware of that. So I think that's part of it. So the workflow would be, this is how we're doing it. We have this in our schedule to do that. Matter of fact, Tracy Martin made a really great point on the TDO live thing on her little nugget. And she said, hey, be nimble enough to where if a mom calls in and says, hey, I can't make it in, but can we just do it over a phone call, that you can move that in your schedule from an in-person exam or appointment, I should say, because it's a checkup, right? It's not going to be like having to get your fingers wet. but they actually can just move it over to, oh, it's a virtual call. Okay, so we can do
Yeah.
that virtually. We can do the retainer check or whatever. And then you got to have a TC who can create that scenario of making sure they're getting the pictures in that you need, and then you set them up so that they can just screen share what they're doing. You can do that through like a Zoom like we're doing right now. You can do that through eCam. There's a lot of opportunities to do that. And then walk them through it and then close them on the phone. I'll go even deeper than video. Like, I think video is awesome. We should do virtual consultations. I'm going to go back to Dr. Waldman again, because the secret to Dr. Waldman is his TC is in Florida. His office is in California.
Yeah.
His TC only does it, or only did it before last summer, on the phone, not even virtually. So she
Wow.
would close people on the phone. It's possible because other people have done
so
it.
they'd send pictures in and she'd look at them, close them. Wow.
They had a lot of different scenarios that they would do, but they would have the pictures and then they would be able to see them. The doctor would be able to give a quick diagnosis. Doctor would never even see them. I'm sorry, they would never see the doctor until they actually came in, because she would do it all. Oh, the doctor said that this is what you'd be, da 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 da. And I know, I get it. Look, Keaton, there's going to be some people out there right now screaming at this radio or screaming at this show. Oh, that's not good practicing. You can't do that in our state. Da, da, da. Look, everybody's different. But I promise you, if there's a will, there's a way. If you're willing to be creative enough, which is basically the calling card of being an entrepreneur, is to be creative.
Yeah.
Then you can figure it out.
Yeah. Amazing. So let's talk more about the actual close, right? Give us just a tidbit of like what it's like. What tips do you have about selling through the screen? What's different body language? What trends are happening with sales right now?
Yeah, I think one of the big challenges is that a lot of people think they can just throw on a Zoom call and make it the same experience. And I agree with many doctors who say, hey, people like really enjoy the experience of being in our office. And that's part of our secret sauce. That's what separates us, is they get to feel us and our energy and how welcome we are. And that's great. I love that. So you just have to duplicate that as much as possible through the screen. So one of the things that people get wrong really a lot is how to set up their whole, the look. Like, you have your OrthoPatients banner behind you. Doing something like that makes total sense on a virtual call. Or at least have a nice looking backdrop behind you. Like right now, I've got my books and my stuff, and I'm not selling anything here. But if I had, I have my green screens. I pop up. I can look like I'm in anybody's office. I can have the logo of the office up there, and we're good to go. Good sound is key. A good sound so people can hear you clearly, because you're not always going to hear them clearly, because you don't have control of their sound and their microphones, right? But you need to be heard clearly. Good framing of not only the video, but a good high quality camera, not just the FaceTime video or camera that's on your Mac laptop or whatever. Speaking of laptops, making sure it's positioned correctly, right? So you're actually in the frame and they can see you. You might notice, those who've been watching here, I use my hands a lot when I speak, because our hands are second most looked at, communicated with form of communication. So people listen to our words, right? But they actually see our lips first, and then our hands first, our lips second. And so when we're hiding our hands all the time, or we're typing down here, or we're making notes down here, we're not showing them our hands, a lack of trust happens. Something very interesting happens inside of a Zoom video that not a lot of people think about. So Zooms cause natural anxiety. And the reason why is because, Keaton, I know you're pretty egotistical, so you probably look at yourself a lot when you talk, right? No, you probably don't. Nobody does. We don't see ourselves when we talk, right? When we're talking to another human being, naturally, we don't see ourselves. But Zoom, we do. Zoom, you see yourself either in presentation mode, or if you're doing the side-by-side, the Brady Bunch type thing, right? So you look at all the things that are wrong with you. You look at your hair messed up. You look at how you're looking, and it causes natural anxiety.
Interesting.
So we have to be aware of that. So what I tell TCs to do is, if they can, to not have the side-by-side on there and have them smaller, so that they can just see the patient and we'll look at them. Nice. And so we got to look at those type of things. So when I did the selling through the screen, and in my book, I talk about the shell that are the areas that I look for in a screen. And so you've got shoulders, because shoulders will give away if people are certain or not. And when you ask them questions, eyes, SH is the hands. So that's why I talk about hands. the eyes and the lips, and noticing if people have something to say or not, because the lips will give that away. You want to look at those whole areas. Plus, you want to make sure it's a good experience. You can do things with good experience before and after the call too. But yeah, it's just really having that basic, but making it intentional as opposed to, oh, I'll just throw on a Zoom call and, oh, the camera's going to be up my nose or barely can see me, or we're using a generic microphone, so it sounds so echoey. I mean, at least get some AirPods on, right? Or something to where you have a microphone closer to your mouth. So little things like that make a big difference. And that's really the experience, right? You want people to have the experience of you.
Wow. And what you mentioned things you can do before and after. What are those?
So I'm a big fan of using a lot of digital things beforehand. A quick tip for everybody here is if you go to AmericanGreetingCards.com, they have a ton of digital cards that you can customize to your needs. And you can send those to people as a reminder. That's better than just a regular email that's like, hey, don't forget our appointment. You can send them a digital card that has either a computer voice or a celebrity saying, hey, looking forward to seeing you. I send those out a ton with birthday cards. I'm a huge Donny Osmond fan, and Donny Osmond has a happy birthday song he does on there that personalize it. He will literally sing your name, won't sing Dino. Might not sing Keaton. I don't know. I haven't checked for Keaton, but you know what it's like having a name that is not popular.
Yeah,
people don't know.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And so if it's not found on a keychain, he probably is not singing it. Yeah. But for most people, he'll sing your name. He'll also say what age you are and stuff. So it's really fun. Well, you can do that with other digital cards. Same thing afterwards, right? If there's time beforehand too, where maybe you have a week before that appointment, to send them something physical, like your book. Hint, I think every doctor should write a book. So your book, or a care package that says, hey, we're looking forward to seeing you. I emphasize that because the law of reciprocity. Give them something before they've ever done anything for you or have said yes to treatment. Even if they say no to you treatment-wise, if you look at the ROI of that investment, saying, hey, maybe you send them out a water bottle, right? You send them out a personalized water bottle, or a water bottle that, and by the way, I do mean personalized. It's personalized for your company, but handwrite their name on it with a Sharpie, with somebody who's got really nice handwriting to put their name on it, because now it becomes Dino's water bottle as opposed to DinoWatt.com's water bottle, right? So if this were to be sent to Keaton, it would say Keaton on it. But you've created that law of reciprocity that before they even get on the phone or on the video, they're like, wow, they've already given, this is great. Like, that's cool. And there's a natural desire for that. So little things like that. There's a whole bunch of stuff like that in the book that I'm just like, you guys can, like, let's just think creative. And it's a low cost. Even if they don't go with you, even if they say no to you a treatment, it costs you $20 for a loss leader, where you're going to get a majority of people that the amount of people that are going to say yes to you is going to rise. So it's all going to come out in the wash.
Yeah. I have a friend I go to church with actually that just got braces on, and he's got the mask. He's got the water bottle. He's got, like, I've seen a bag, I think, of everything. And I was like, they're doing their job right. Like, I know exactly. And I'm obviously more aware of it because I work with orthodontists every day, but I'm like, he's wearing that mask every week at church. I see it.
The joke I make about that is that most people that get that stuff usually got it after they said yes.
Yeah.
So they got the $6,000 t-shirt, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm saying, do it beforehand.
It's like, so smart.
Why not invest into that person? And if let's just say you have 20 new patient exams in a week. All right. Well, and so you're sending out 20 water bottles. Yes, it's an expense, but think about all the other stuff that you spend money on. Think of all the family discounts you give, that you're willing to give that discount for $200, $300, $1,000. Do it with this person. Yeah, the ROI on that's a good lead. So
yeah, that's awesome. Love it. So then tell us about My Virtual Start, what your plan is with the company, when it's launching, everything.
Yeah, so because of that, coming out of that, and you know this better than most people, right? You're a company trying to get leads for people, and and you take that lead and you do a great job at what you do, and then you give that to a practice. And unfortunately, most practices are not trained in how to actually make that sale or work that lead, so they fall by the wayside. And so you're like, dang it, like if they just learn to do this. And this actually came to me from a buddy of mine who does this in the dental space, who he does this with implants. And so he kind of has the same type of company as you do, where they were doing it for implants, and those are big ticket items, right? $20, $30, $50,000.
Yeah.
And so he'd get frustrated going, come on, this is a good solid lead. Google ads, Facebook ads, work the lead. So then he started to train the offices on how to work the lead. And then he started to like make the appointment for them. Like, geez, let me just make the appointment for you. So they'll, you'll see we're doing our job. And still, like they were just finding that so many were falling through the cracks that they wish would be a little different. And so then he finally just said, you know what, forget it. I'm going to keep the leads. We're going to we're going to do them for them, but we're going to work the lead for our client. And I'm going to hire the best TCs I can find in the dental implant space. And they're going to prep that person. They're going to hold the appointment. They're going to get them qualified for the amount of credit that they can have. So they're going to get them all ready to go. So by the time they walk into the doctor's office, they have a person that they know is qualified for $30,000 and that they understand what treatment would look like and what's involved. And so they're all prepped, ready to go. So I was talking to him and I went, well, what if I could take that a little bit further? What if because in the ortho space, you can actually close them. You're not dealing with $30,000. You're typically dealing with around 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So what if you could actually get amazing TCs who are veterans at what they do and the best at what they do, and you could actually work the lead and close them for the doctors. And so we started this company, My Virtual Start myself, Nick Bradfield, who's been around forever. She actually used to own her own practice and she's amazing what she does. And then my daughter Avery, we got together and said, hey, what if we could do this and really make this a service that goes above and beyond for these doctors? And so we've been in beta now for officially, I think it's been like 4 or 5 months, and it's been going really good. Matter of fact, we have 3 appointments today for one of our clients. They're awesome. They're almost like laydowns because we actually do all the back end stuff. We check, verify insurance. There's a lot of processes in place that we didn't expect that going into it. We did not know how much work was going to be involved. I tell you, that's there's so much involved. So not only on the front end, but on the back end of making sure everybody's coordinated, make sure mom knows, like we have no control if mom actually knows how to use Zoom. We actually have one TC who's amazing. And she's like, I've never used Zoom before in my life. So we had to train her on how to use Zoom, right? And so, but it's great because we're now creating this service for these doctors who, the doctor that has those 3 appointments, they're closed today. And yet we have a TC who is really skilled at what they do. We have them get to know the doctors and the team, and they get to know them. So they know that they've got quality because they're representing that doctor. But my TC, this doctor is in Virginia. My TC for this doctor in particular is in California. She has a really cool, we show them and help them get good green screen backdrops with the logo of the doctor on it. So it's branded for that doctor. And like I said, they know about that doctor. So now they're the arm of that office while the office is closed. And she's going to close on 3 patients today. So Doc's going to walk in on Monday with an extra 3 patients of production that he didn't have before. So it's really exciting. We're actually, by the time this airs, it sounds like we're probably going to be in launch mode. We're in beta. Now we're in launch. And so that's really exciting. We think it's a whole new category in this industry that's going to explode.
Oh, for sure. For sure. You're a braver man than I. We put him on your schedule here at OrthoPatients, but Dino,
I didn't have this much gray hair before I started this venture.
Love it. Well, all the best to you. It sounds incredible. And like, I think what I've loved most about being in the industry is like people could see us as competitors, right? But the way I see it, like there's doctors who just don't really want what you have. There's doctors that don't really want what I have. And there's so much to go around and there's so many awesome providers. I'm super excited for you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I had a naturopath chiropractic doctor as a client once who said, and I use this all the time. He said, when it comes to competition, we always have to remember there's no shortage of sick people. And so in our industry, that's where I think it's so funny with consulting, right? I mean, that's the main crux of my business is consulting. And I just don't see any type of competition. I mean, I have a bookshelf behind me with a ton of business books. I have business books lined up, actually, literally stacked up down here, because I don't just read one business book and go, oh, that's it. That's all I'm going to do. Like, oh, I'm good to great. That's it. Start with why. That's the only thing I have to work with, right? It's like, no, you get multiple ideas from multiple people. And that's the same with consulting. And you have different businesses out there. It's like, oh, we could totally do that. Or what about that? And so there's no shortage of sick people. There's no shortage of need for information. And so I'm working with Michelle Shimon right now with a doctor where people would be like, aren't you guys? But no, we're working together with a doctor because I offer something different that she does, even if it's perspective.
Yep. I love that. And it's so true. I deal a lot like in the online course industry, and I've purchased 5 courses on the same thing because I want to hear 5 different perspectives on it and then come up with my own. Business nowadays, it's all just about thinking for yourself because there's so much monkey see, monkey do. If you can just like get your basics down by learning from someone and then think for yourself, be creative, the calling card of an entrepreneur, like you're leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else because they're just following blindly. So
totally true.
Love it. Well, thanks, Dino. As we close out, what's your number one piece of advice to orthodontists in 2021?
I believe that in life in general, we either make decisions or we become compelled to make those decisions. I personally would much rather make the decision than be compelled because compelling typically ends up being painful. So that being said, my number one piece of advice is either you will choose to be a part of the evolution of your practice or you will be resigned to talking about it afterwards. And I would much rather you be a part of it and being talked about as opposed to talking about it.
Love it. Thank you so much. It reminds me of the quote, there are those who choose greatness and those who have greatness thrust upon them.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So choose greatness in 2021 with virtual exams. And you've got a new profit center for you. Thanks so much, Dino. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to the books, the new company. Congrats on everything. Seems like it's been an awesome lockdown for you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, made the most of it for sure.
That's right.
Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
All righty. Bye-bye.
How's it going, everybody? If you enjoyed that video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more. This really helps us out and it helps more orthodontists find content like this that can really help them in their practices. So it means a lot to us if you do that. With all of that said, if you're looking to grow your practice this year, please go to orthopatients.com, watch our free training, or just sign up for a call with a member of my team. And I promise it will be one of the most valuable things you do this year for your practice. With all that said, thank you so much for watching and we'll see you next time.